1-0 to Manchester City.
It's as close as they've come, I suppose.
I had the feeling that the game will be decided in the second half.
The Rosa's side are on terms in Leipzig.
Oh, was that handball? Referee blows the whistle. All to do at the Etihad.
We had a game in Manchester where the team was going to win, so it goes through.
Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. My name is FG and it is time for the UEFA Champions League knockout stages, and it doesn't get much bigger than this. Join us on Matchday Live with some old friends, new friends, and for the first time, you at home, our fans from across the world. Champions League Mahrez scored his 20th goal of this competition in the game against Leipzig. Some players are just made for nights like this.
Gundogan, Mahrez, at last! And I guess you could have predicted Mahrez was going to be its scorer.
City are unbeaten in their last 8 games against German opposition in knockout games in Europe. That fixture was a very memorable one for City fans in 08-09 against Hamburg, where this man, Vincent Kompany, was playing. We had absolutely everything that night. Inflatable bananas, incredible atmosphere, and even I was in the crowd. There'll be plenty more from me tonight on Matchday Live, but for now, let's go to the studio where our very own Cel Spellman is joined by 3 very special guests. I'm off to go and find some friends.
A very good evening, welcome along to Matchday Live. As our fans outside the Etihad Stadium welcome Pep Guardiola and our players for this massive game. Champions League nights at the Etihad, under the lights, and what a fixture it is. As we know, the aggregate score against RB Leipzig is 1-1. Manchester City will be hoping a few goals and that all-important win to put us through to the next round. Calvin Phillips just getting off there. Now, the omens are good, my friends. You know I like it when I have some good stats that bode well for us, and it's no different tonight. Manchester City have won their last 9 Champions League matches against German clubs at home. They've scored at least 2 goals in each match. The last German club to win away at Manchester City in this competition was Bayern Munich, led by none other than Pep Guardiola. That was in 2013-2014. But coming to the Etihad, we welcome a very good in-form RB Leipzig side. They are unbeaten in 5 matches in the UEFA Champions League, winning 4 and drawing 1. This is their longest unbeaten run in the competition since a 7-game stretch in 2019-20 when they reached the semi-final. Manchester City and those boys there will be hoping we put that run to an end tonight. Will that man be in our starting 11? Well, you know the first and only place to find out is right here on Matchday Live, and I'll be bringing you our team news in just a sec. Not before, though, I've welcomed you along to the Matchday Live studio, and you can see what a lineup we have got here. And, gents, I have to say, are you happy with the choice of top tonight?
Beautiful. First thing I noticed when I came in.
Loving
the top, loving it.
Do you like it, Shaun?
Oh, yeah.
Steph, do you think?
Yeah, I'm having it, yeah.
Thank you very much. I've got to say, it is still a bit surreal that I'm sat here wearing it next to this man, the man who made it iconic. Mr. Paul Dickov, of course, club legend. Shaun Goethe with me in the studio. And, of course, our women's team club captain, Steph, back on Matchday Live.
Back, yeah.
Great to have you here. It's always a nervous time for City fans. How are you feeling? Because, you know, it's been really hyped up, this game tonight.
Yeah, I think obviously after the first game, I think everybody just presumed that City would go there and get the job done. But I think RB Leipzig in the second half especially showed kind of what they're about. So I think tonight's going to be an absolutely great game and so excited to watch it.
Yeah, we're really excited here. And I know as well people that are excited to watch it, not just here in the studio and those at the Etihad Stadium, but all you fans around the world. And there's a special treat tonight. We're really excited to say we're joined by some of you right here in the studio. We're going to be chatting to them in just a little bit. Magically, they will appear right here, as if on cue. There we go. See, got them in check in the studio behind there. Great to have you all on, guys. Can you all hear us? Is it all working okay? Love that. There we go. Right, we'll be coming to all of you in just a second. But before we come to them and to our guys in the studio, let's get our starting 11. Here it is. Pep Guardiola has chosen this side to take on RB Leipzig tonight. Remember, 1-1 is the aggregate score. Can these boys do it? Let's find out. Ederson starts in goal. Then a back four looking like it's unchanged from the weekend in the form of John Stones, Manuel Akanji, Ruben Diaz and Nathan Ake. A middle three, we're thinking, of course, is going to be Rodri holding. Ilkay Gundogan captain the side. We're thinking, is it going to be De Bruyne or Silva? But we're going to say De Bruyne, who comes back into the team. So great to see his name there in the starting 11. And a forward three consisting of Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish and Erling Haaland there at the top of the pitch. As we then move to the bench, it's looking full strength, really. I believe as well this week we had, for the first time in a long time at training, all players fit, which means that Ortega is on the bench alongside Carson. Then you've got Kyle Walker, Calvin Phillips, Aymeric Laporte, Julian Alvarez, Gomez, Riyad Mahrez and Phil Foden. Paul, let's start with the attacking end of the pitch. I wanted to begin. Foden, as we know, has been in scintillating form, playing out on that right-hand side. It's looking like Bernardo's going to take that position today. Foden is on the bench. Why do you think he's gone for Bernardo over Phil?
I just think, not that Phil's not got energy. Bernardo's energy is boundless, you know, and I think tonight we need to start the game really fast.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 when Bernardo does play in the team, whether it's playing in the middle or out wide, he's the one that sets the press off and everybody goes and follows one. So maybe that's the thoughts behind it. But look, it's so hard to pick in it. If Riyad had been in and Phil, they're 3 top quality players. But I'm just wondering, with all the stuff surrounding Kevin this week, whether he might play a little bit further forward.
Interesting.
You know, saying about getting back to basics, playing through balls and getting assists and everything else. Whether we might see Rodri and Gundo sit a little bit deeper and get Kev up in support of Erling Haaland. Because whenever we've been at our best this season, it's when Erling's not been isolated. It's when the 2 wide players have been in close to him, or the third midfielder, the number 10, has been in and around and close to Erling Haaland.
Well, we've seen as well, actually, when it seems to be Gundogan and Rodri, if they hold, what we love to see is Kevin De Bruyne popping up on the right, and in the next phase of play he'll pop up on the left because he has that freedom.
Yeah.
And I guess that is going to be crucial today because we know, when Pep spoke about in Leipzig, their full-backs like to be wide if they need to, but they can also be in the middle of the pitch. So that freedom for Kev will be key to him, hopefully unlocking that very resolute RB Leipzig defence.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, he's so brilliant in wherever he is on the park. If he's deep, he has the quality to sort of, provide service to wide players, but also through balls. When he drifts wide, for me, there's no better cross of the ball. It got me thinking about Mahrez now, because Mahrez puts a beautiful delivery in. But De Bruyne, when he's out wide, he puts in those enticing balls. As a centre forward, you're thinking, this is what you want. Defenders thinking, this has got to be a keeper's ball. The keeper's thinking, this is not my ball. The centre forward's thinking, yes, this is my ball. So I think, with all the little bit of talk that's been going on about Kevin De Bruyne, it wouldn't amaze me that, tonight is one of those games where he steps up and delivers, to say what was already talked about. Because for me, if I'm playing, if I'm in charge, I'm playing him every week. The guy is he's just so impressive as a player, without the ball, how he presses, gets amongst the opposition. But tonight will be a tricky one because I think they are a brave team. They try to play as well. So we have to have our A game on in terms of when we're out of possession and being able to press, and all the players need to be really at it.
I wanted to pick up, Paul, on what you said and Pep was saying, Steph, about sometimes just keeping it simple and back to basics. And he wasn't just saying it about Kev, said it about Erling Haaland as well. Not saying they've been bad by any means, but what does that mean when a coach is saying that it's doing the simple things will help you with the better stuff? Did you kind of understand what he was saying?
I think as a player, obviously with the likes of Haaland and De Bruyne, they've set standards that nobody at this moment in time are reaching. I mean, Haaland, his goal ratio, and De Bruyne with his assists, and people are saying that De Bruyne's had a bad season so far, and I'm looking at his assists and his contribution in games, and it's actually scary. So I think for me, it's like, what are their strengths and what are they really good at? And like Shaun said, in terms of De Bruyne, his crossing ability is second to none, and whether that's when you're close to the box or from deep, he can see passes that nobody else can see. And with Haaland as well, his main job is to put in the back of the net, and he might not get as much of the ball that he wants to, but if you score and winning goals like against Crystal Palace, it doesn't matter. It's 3 points and it's on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I like asking all centre-halves when they're on the show. So, Steph.
I know I'm a bit outnumbered at the minute, aren't I?
Strikers union here, isn't it?
But, I mean, how would you go about trying to stop the big man up front, Steph?
God, I mean...
Yes, let's it as that.
I mean, we've got someone similar in terms of Bunny Shaw that plays for us and her physicality, and she has a bit of everything, and I'm sure we'll go on to it in the rest of the show. But I think with them strikers, that they're that good that you don't want to give them space. You don't want to leave them space in behind, because you've got players like Kevin De Bruyne that can put it in behind you. So it's tough, and it gets you thinking as a centre-half. But I think when you're at a club like this, you have to buy the best, and we certainly have got two of the best in Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland. Yeah, great goal Bunny scored at the weekend, which did make her a record breaker, and we're going to be focusing on that a little bit later on in the show. The other person in our attacking lineup who is someone, Paul, that you've ever been so positive about, particularly in his first season when, you know, maybe there are a few critics out there saying that was it the wrong decision, but the form that Jack Grealish has come into, I mean, how important has he been? And have you noticed, has he changed anything in his game, or has it just clicked for him?
I think he's, just in himself, he's a lot more positive in everything he's doing. Since the World Cup, I genuinely believe he's been our best player. He's been our biggest attacking threat. And I always stuck up for him last season, because he was coming from a situation at Aston Villa where he could basically, and Jack will admit this himself, he could have done what he wanted in that team. Yeah. He had 10 players around him to play, but where he's coming into a structured system, and what Pep does, and everybody has to do their job to the nth degree here. And it did take him a while to settle. I spoke to him last week after the Bristol City game, and he was on cloud nine. He said he just feels, he said, and even the fact that he was subbing that game, but Pep brought him on when Bristol City were putting us under a bit of pressure, he felt that Pep was saying, look, you can go on and carry the ball and take the pressure off us a little bit. So he's feeling that responsibility, and he's relishing that responsibility. Because I think maybe last season, especially at the start, he was probably listening to too many people outside about what they were saying, about his numbers, about his assists. Yeah. And all he's worried about now is being the team sheet. He said, and before, it was possibly overthinking it a bit too much about the amount of goals that he wasn't scoring, the amount of assists he wasn't scoring. And he was just thinking, well, the manager's playing me every week, because I'm doing what he wants me to do. And the confidence he's got at the minute, he's just growing and growing and growing, and I think he's been absolutely sensational.
Couldn't agree more. And off that Steph, you know, it's easy for his fans to hear that noise and just think, you know, he's a professional footballer, that should be fine. But it must be so difficult to keep the outside noise in, particularly when, with someone like Jack, he's one of those players that it's the loudest about, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, and obviously his personality as well. He's always out there. He came with a huge price tag, and I think the women's team and the men's team, when new players come, it does take them a while to settle in and really understand how we play and the responsibility. And I think what Paul said in terms of Villa, he had a bit of a free roll, and he gained confidence because he could do what he wanted when he wanted all over the pitch, whereas you see him hugging the touchline, and for him, he probably wants to get involved in touching the ball. But now I think he has got assists and goals in him, but at the same time, I never really ever see him lose the ball, which maybe last year we've probably seen a little bit of that because he's making the wrong decisions. But his ability to drive our players and bring other people into play, I think this season, like what Paul said, he has been City's best player in terms of his runs forward and just trying to make it difficult for the opponents, really. Yeah, and goal scoring, Shaun. I mean, we've seen it in glimpses, but I think he said as well, I think he's just been unlucky, maybe not at the rub of the green, where a few shots that, you know, another inch to the left or right probably would have gone in the back of the net. Yeah. When that starts clicking as well, it's pretty unplayable, really, isn't it? Exactly. I mean, you're exactly right. You know, the amount of times he's had shots and they're going goalward and they hit the back of a defender, and the defender knows nothing about it. So he would have liked to have had a little bit more goals, but he knows that that'll come. I think the biggest thing for me with Jackie is he now has the trust of the manager. He has the trust of the players, and he knows, like, before tonight's game, he sat sleeping and thinking, I know I'm a play. And I think before it's, am I going to play? Am I going to play? I'm not playing. I'm in for this game. I'm out. I think he sort of knows he's like one of the first names down to sort of lead the attack. And I think that's why you're now starting to see the performances we're getting from him. Yeah, and we love to see that as City fans. We do indeed. Right, let's see what some of our fans who have joined us on the show today think of that lineup. Dax, I'm going to come to you first, mate. Very smart top, it has to be said. What a setup as well. Let us know where you are, and can you give us your thoughts on that starting 11?
Yeah, I'm in Bedford, near Luton. Starting 11, the best thing for me about it is the fact that we've got the same back four. We've seen it change up too much, and the fact that we've got the same back four, I think that's massive. We saw him keep a clean sheet at the weekend. And what Shaun said as well about Grealish. Look, this is what I always say to rival fans when they go on about if Jack Grealish is doing good for City. And I said, listen, we know Pep, if he wasn't doing well, he wouldn't be starting every single game. So, yeah, I think the other thing is maybe, are you guys a bit surprised Mahrez isn't in the lineup?
It's a good question, actually, Dax. Well, Paul, I'm come to you with that. I mean, yeah, you're so right, because he loves a Champions League game as well, doesn't he, Riyad?
I think a little bit, especially after his goal over in Leipzig and his record in the Champions League. And I thought last season, in the Champions League, a run to the final the season before, it was so important to us in doing that. So a little bit surprised, but you know, myself, Steph and Shaun were talking before we came on air and said all three of us could have picked a team tonight and it would probably be completely different to what Pep does. We've got that much quality in the team. You know, if you're looking at that right-hand side tonight in their own, you've got Phil Foden, Riyad Mahrez and Bernardo Silva. I mean, what options you've got there as well. And I genuinely think Pep picks teams to win certain games, but also he's got, from now to the end of the season, there's going to be that many games that the squad's going to be so important.
And I guess, I mean, Dax, what do you make of it? Because I guess as well, if it is 1-1 and we still need that goal, we know that his personality is probably one of those that you want to bring on, isn't it? Because he has got a cool head when it comes to big moments.
Yeah, and you know what? When you were just reading out the bench, I think that's the first time that I've seen a really, really strong bench for City for a while because of maybe injuries and whatever else. If you go back to like the 17 to 19, 20, when we'd often look at our bench and we'd see Gundogan, we'd see Bernardo Silva, sometimes we'd see Sane, and we'd see so much power off the bench. Today, when you're reading it out and you see Mahrez, you see Foden, you see Alvarez, and you're thinking, do you know what? If plan A doesn't work, there are some plan Bs on the bench. And I think that might be it, to be fair, because with Stones playing at right back, the only thing maybe Stones doesn't offer is the delivery into the box. And then if you've got Mahrez that is a bit more direct, where's the delivery into the box? So I think maybe he's gone with Bernardo or De Bruyne, whichever one ends up playing over there. There is a bit more delivery into the box as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Dax. Great points there. Thank you, mate. We'll hear a bit more from you in a bit. Let's bring in Sarah. And there was a great point Dax made there, Sarah. First of all, let us know whereabouts are you in the world. Where are you?
Hi, I'm in Berlin.
Okay.
With the other guys here from the Berlin Supporters Club.
Beautiful, yeah, because we caught up with you on our last show as well. And picking up off Dax's point, Sarah, how great does it feel as a City fan to see not just a full-strength 11, but that full-strength squad? And how important is it going to be to compete on all three fronts and all three trophies?
It's amazing. I mean, I was looking at the lineup and thinking, wow, this is a really strong lineup. And then I was thinking, any lineup from these players is going to be really strong. So, you know, there's nobody that I wouldn't love to see play. I think it's a very strong position for us. And I know, obviously, every year we're saying, you know, oh, this is going to be our year with Champions League. But it does look really strong for us right now.
Yeah, I agree. I wondered, being over in Berlin, RB Leipzig, great season. They're coming into the game in a great vein of form. How are you feeling about how tonight could go? Is you confident in the Berlin Supporters Club, or is there some nerves? Because it's 50-50 here in Manchester.
I think we know that Leipzig is a good club for sure. So, you know, I wouldn't say anything's in the bag. But we definitely have a lot of faith in City, and I think we all say in Pep we trust. So, you know, we leave the strategy to Pep, but I think we're feeling good for tonight.
And who's going to be the key player for you today out of that starting 11 that could make a difference tonight?
I mean, obviously, KDB, I always love to see him play. He's incredible. That goes without saying. But I'm also a big fan of Erling Haaland, like most of us now. It was actually the first time I got to see him live at the other leg in Leipzig. So that was really exciting for me. And I'm really happy to see him in the lineup again.
Yeah, so will we. Well, listen, we'll hope we'll get lots of goals, and Sarah, we'll chat a little bit more in a bit. That's it's working quite well, isn't it, actually? So far, so good, touch wood. Right now, of course, we want to get you involved at home with the show as well, so the WhatsApp number will appear magically on screen in just a second. That's how you can get in contact with us. So if you've got any questions, maybe for Steph or for Shaun or for Paul, or want to pass comment on something we're talking about, just use the number to get involved. Now, we saw him at the top of the show. He is over at the Etihad Stadium, looking after the fans over there, and I believe FG is caught with someone outside the stadium now, so let's see who FJ has managed to get hold of and have a quick chat to.
Yes, thank you, Kel. Here I am pitch side with RB Leipzig's creator Ebru. Before we start, just to let you know, the pitch is actually raised, so we're not as short as you think. And I know people in the studio like Shaun are probably laughing at us, but we're not as short as you think. Ebru, let's talk straight away about RB Leipzig and the importance of today's game. Would you say the first leg was a good result for you?
Yeah, of course. So the first game, Leipzig was very strong in the second half. They played very confident, and I think it will be like in this game too.
We've seen the Leipzig team, which you guys watching Matchday Live can now see on the screen. Let's talk. Any surprises when you look at that team?
I think it's the standard team, so the best team they could play. So I think it will be a great game today.
I mean, it'll definitely be a great game if the game here last time is anything to go by, because last time we played it, there was goals, goals and goals. There is one man who you're missing today, and that's Nkunku. How big of a loss is he?
Yeah, he's still injured. Unfortunately, he's, for me, one of the best strikers in the world, so I think it's very hard that he still misses also in this game, but I think the whole team is doing great at the moment, so I think also that they will do this without Nkunku.
We are going to get to your score prediction. For those of you who are just watching Matchday Live and didn't watch the Matchday Live from Germany, Ebru actually got the score correct.
Yeah.
Ebru, what do you think the score is going to be in today's game?
I think the first half, Leipzig will start with one goal. So, yeah, they start with 1-0 at the first time. And then the second half, Leipzig will do the game 2-1 and will win the game today.
Very, very ambitious. Let's talk real quick about a man that we touched on in the last time we were pitch-side in Germany, and that's Timo Werner.
Yeah.
And Nkunku missing. It's really important for him to lead the line, and his pace could really, really help you tonight.
Yeah, he's very fast. He's doing very important runs for the game. He's doing very great. His performances every game very good. So I think, yeah, good performance.
And when you look at your side, do you expect Leipzig to sit back and allow the pressure, because the atmosphere here in here is going to be absolutely amazing? It's completely sold out. We're going to have a light show before the game as well. Do you expect to sit back and just sort of play on the counter-attack, or do you think you're going to try and attack us?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like in the first game, they will Man City will do the game in the first minutes, and then, yeah, Leipzig will attack then later.
You've just made me, and probably everyone else watching Matchday Live, a lot more nervous because you got the prediction spot on, but we hope you're wrong. But, I mean, on behalf, how have you found Manchester, like, since you've been here? Because we've spent a couple of days, we've done some recording with the esports, which you guys will see later on. How have you found Manchester?
Manchester's very great. I didn't see so much of the city, but the stadium is very big. It's very great here, and the esports area it's all everything very professional. So it's cool to be here. Yeah.
It is. It's very, very cool to have you. But on behalf of Man City, thank you to RB Leipzig for being so nice to us in Germany and so nice to us here. But we are all hoping that it ends with the Manchester club going through. Let's go back to the studio with Kel and everyone else.
Thank you, FG, and thank you to Ebru there as well. So great to have you on the show and see you back with FG. Of course, though, agreeing with FG, we'll be hoping for a City win. Let's take a look, though, at RB Leipzig's team. If you've seen it on the side of the screen there, if you've just joined us, I can read you it out now. RB Leipzig team up like this. They've got Blažević in net, then it's Henrichs. Orban captains the side against that name that is absolutely everywhere at the moment. Bless you, Paul. Gvardiol. We've got Raum in there, Haidara, Lima, Forsberg, Szoboszlai, Campbell and Timo Werner, and a pretty strong bench there as well. You can see some of the RB Leipzig players just turning up the Etihad Stadium in the tunnel. Shaun, One name that I guess most City fans are going to be happy not to see, we know he's got that injured, is Nkunku, but that's not stopped them from coming into this game in great form. Where are the threats? How do you think RB Leipzig could set up today to try and, deal with us?
Well, that's really good news for City because he is, dynamic in terms of his ability to drive and change direction. And we saw little glimpses in the last game, so that's probably good. That's good news for City. I think the way they play, I think how they build up is going to be interesting because they typically have like two holding midfielders, and this becomes sort of a tricky situation because they use the goalkeeper so well in their build-up. He's like a player, and I think that becomes the positive from their point of view, and so it then needs us to sort of send another player forward, which means we're vacating the space. And again, tactically, I think their managers probably not as good, but he's a very good manager. So I think it's going to be really interesting how this game goes tactically.
Could agree, Mark. I mean, to echo your thoughts there, I mean, they're unbeaten in 5 matches in the UEFA Champions League. They're coming into it in great run in the Bundesliga as well. And a name that has been key to that, he's in the last 5 games, he's scored 2 goals, 90% passing accuracy, 10 tackles, 30 balls recovered, and 8 out of 13 clearance completed. Guardiola, Steph, and he was colossal against us. How good is he as a centre-half from what you've seen of him, and what does he bring to this RB Leipzig team?
Yeah, I think the first time I really watched him was probably in the World Cup, where he was probably one of the outstanding players of the tournament. I think for his age, I think he showed a lot of experience, and his physicality is really impressive, and I think we've seen glimpses of that against City in the last game. But I think, like you said about his goal-scoring ability from corners, and that was who got the goal against us last game. So for me, very impressive. And I think even from a technical point of view, I think Shaun was talking about them playing out from the back. I think when you do have a centre-half that's very good on the ball, it's hard because when you go and press them, they have so much composure to be able to play out and to really start the attacks. So I think, especially in the second half against City, he was very, very impressive.
Paul, on that second half, we really saw how they came into the game, and obviously we saw the fans as well had a big part to play in that, and hopefully ours will tonight. But what was it that they did well, do you think, in that second half to help them get back into the game?
It was strange. We'd done the Matchday Live a couple of weeks ago. In the first half, City were so dominant. And, Leipzig didn't lay a glove in us. And it was 1-0 at half-time, and we were sitting here at half-time as we always do, thinking this is going to end up being 2 and 3 and maybe a little bit more. They brought Henriks on the right back in the second half, and he actually ended up playing more as a right winger, which caused us a lot of problems down that our left-hand side, their right-hand side. Forsberg in the middle started playing a lot more forward than what he was done and getting things to... Szoboszlai was getting on the ball a little bit more. But the strange thing was that they came after us right after half-time, the start of the second half. Once they scored their goal, it was as if they reverted back to type again. I was expecting them to... I was glad they didn't.
Yes.
But I was expecting them to keep pressing us and creating. So whether that was a tactical thing from the manager, that, look, the first half, we just get in, sound the game out, seen it at 1-0 at half-time, went after us, but once they scored their goal, they went back. I mean, we could have won the game the last sort of 15 minutes because they sat back again, so it's going to be really interesting what they did tonight. But Henriks, I thought, was fantastic. Szoboszlai and Forsberg going forward in the middle of the park, we're going to have to take care of them because technically they're fantastic and create chances.
Yeah, and that midfield battle is key in any game. Do you think then, off what Paul's saying, Shaun, we won't know until we see it, I'm going to ask some of our supporters, fans over in Berlin in a second, that might give them confidence to say, well, why don't we start at the Etihad and go for it? Or could you see them maybe sitting in and being a bit more reserved like they were in the first leg to begin with?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think they're a really good team when they're really at it.
Yeah.
And their manager may, on the back of that, think, why not? But I would think he'd err on the side of caution and sort of feel their way into the game and then sort of say, right, we're now into the second half, let's sort of go for it, as opposed to going for it right from the beginning. But I'm really intrigued because this team is not a Real Madrid. We probably, as some City fans will think, well, City will win this game. I think this manager is absolutely a brilliant manager, and the way he has them playing as well. So I think it could be a tricky one, but we also know that when we're on our game, we could blow any team away.
I would love to know if that was a tactical decision second half, because as players sometimes when you get back in the game against a team that's superior than you, subconsciously you do drop back. Or whether it's something that the manager had said, look, once and if we get back in the game, just shut up shop to take it back to Etihad.
Which obviously helped us a little bit, but will be interesting to see if they do it tonight. Another name on that starting 11 that's probably a bit more familiar, particularly with fans who follow the Premier League closely, Timo Werner. It never quite happened for him at Chelsea, but you could always see he was a real threat. And, you know, if he does get a chance, that'll be a player, I guess, you know, your Akanji, Diaz and Stones are going to have to be aware of because he's very fast as well. Yeah, I think especially if City are going to have a lot of the ball, I think in terms of them trying to counter and on the transitions, they've got to be aware of him because he is so quick and like you said, Chelsea didn't really kind of hit it off as much as he probably wanted to, but he did show glimpses in terms of getting on the back shoulder, getting in goal scoring positions, and I think for this Leipzig team he could be very, very important tonight, especially if we predict that they're kind of going to sit off a little bit and not really take it to City. So it's going to be interesting how the back four deal with them because we always like to overload certain areas and it does leave us a bit vulnerable at times, but hopefully nothing comes to Vale, really. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure Rodri will be on his A game as he was at the weekend as well. We're going to do a midfield focus in just a bit. Let's head back to some of our fans that are joining us on our wall here in the studio. We've got Amir and Paul, who are also part of the Berlin Official Supporters Club. So, Amir, I'm going to come to you first and say, do you think RB Leipzig might do what they did in the second half of the first leg and come at us? Or can you see them sitting in a little bit and maybe being a bit more reserved for this game?
Well, that's a good question, and I think the answer is we need to be patient at first. In our previous fixtures in this part of the Champions League, we were quite attacking. I remember those 4 goals against Real Madrid very quickly, but also conceding 2 or 3 until the end. I definitely see some kind of slow start for both of the teams because we are not chasing any results in this case, but they also they will be very defensively there. You don't play these kind of games every weekend like in the Premier League. It's not easy to prepare this kind of games. But that second half we saw on the stadium as an official supporting club in Berlin, we saw they can play with us. They are very stable. They have very good players in every line, starting Guardiola, then Leimer in the middle, and up front with the Werner very quick. We need to be careful. We need to be patient and wait for our opportunity. We have players for this game, and I'm very positive. I just hope we don't experience another second half from Leipzig.
No, I mean, we'll be hoping for the same in the studio, and obviously our bench might be key to that. Who do you think for Manchester City is going to be key to make sure that we win in this fixture, knowing probably the RB Leipzig players as well? Who's going to be important for the City today on the pitch for you?
I see it in possession, to be honest. As Paul said at the start of the Matchday Live, Gundo dropping back to Rodri, and then having Kevin and then Grealish also to maintain the possession. From this possession, we can create our chances. And if I need to answer that question for the one man, I see Haaland scoring our important goal tonight.
Love that from you, Amir. Paul, let me bring you into the conversation. Not this Paul in the studio, the Paul on our fan wall. Paul, Amir made a great point about, managing the pace of the game. One person who I think does that probably the best at City, if it's not Bernardo Silva, for me, is Ilkay Gundogan. He starts, obviously been in Germany as well. How key has he been for City's season over the last few years, but in particularly now for these big games as we're fighting on 3 fronts?
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember a time a few years back where I wouldn't always be entirely happy seeing Gundogan in the starting lineup, and that really has turned around. He's become one of our most important players, and not just on the ball, but also finding that right moment and that right timing to make a run into the box and score a goal, because he's difficult to pick up, because it's not a player you're always expecting as a defender to arrive in that situation. He's good at picking his moment to do that. So I'll really be hoping for him to make a difference and to bring the experience that he has from playing in the Bundesliga.
And now we've looked through the 2 teams. Paul, how are you feeling about the game, and how can you see this maybe playing out? It'd be great to get your thoughts.
Well, with the big favourites for the game, and what concerns me is a little bit the kind of mindset of the players and the fans in the stadium as well. I think there can be a tendency to focus on how might we get knocked out this time, you know, thinking about like Monaco and Lyon and these kinds of games where we've come into the second leg being favourites. And for me, I just think it's important that the players and the fans as well think of this as an opportunity to get to the quarterfinals and see it in that positive sense and try to make life as difficult and uncomfortable as possible for Leipzig. You know, we know that they like to be on the ball and in possession and passing it. In the first leg, we scored by picking up on a loose pass from a defender. Let's put them under unbelievable pressure and get our fans in the stadium making the Leipzig players even more nervous and try to really like put them away with a bit of an early surge.
I love that early surge, and hopefully as well the fans will be bringing that surge of energy and noise as well inside the Etihad Stadium. That was Amir and Paul there, who are part of our Berlin official supporters club. Shaun, those scars that, you know, that Paul mentioned, you know, when we have gone into games either with a big lead from the first leg or, as you say, thinking we should win, do players still think about that, or do you kind of at a new season and go, it's done that now, let's try and put it right this season, or does it linger a little bit?
I think that mindset only comes in if it's a team that has been a bogey team. Okay. That's the only time that will come into a mindset that, oh, you've not beat that team for a number of years, and that's the only time. But other than that, I think it's another game. We get a game. We get the opportunity to advance into the 16s. A huge game. You know, I just imagine the players sitting there in the dressing room, looking to the right, to the left, and just go, it's quality, it's world class, it's world class. Do what you do, I'll do what I do, and, you know, we get what we normally get, and that should be wins.
Absolutely, fingers crossed. Right, FG has been out and about in the stadium, and I think he managed to find Big Steve for a little bit of a catch-up. FG, how is Big Steve, and what is he thinking about today's game?
Yes, thank you, Kel. Here we are outside as you guys are nice and warm in the studio. But look who is joining me. As always, Manchester City's favourite fan, my favourite fan, is Big Steve. Steve, Champions League night. This is the business end now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. As you can see, the atmosphere is building nice. The Manchester weather's turned up for us again. Yeah, I'm excited for the game.
Let's talk really quickly about the importance of this competition. We had an unbelievable performance at the weekend, which we'll talk about anyway, but the importance of this competition, there's something just missing for us, and it is that Champions League title. Is this the year, Steve?
Well, you know, we've had some good runs in this competition where we've been really, really confident, and it's not quite worked out. This season, I said it earlier on in the competition, something might be happening, and got that feeling in my chest where I might be a bit of indigestion, but I don't know, but I think something's happening.
I have different feelings in my chest as well, but I mean, look, let's hope something is happening. Let's talk real quick about the players we have in our squad at the minute. We've got a special group of players. We've had a special group of players throughout the years since Sheikh Mansour has come to the club, and since we've had, of course, Pep Guardiola as a manager. But looking at our side, is there any standouts for you?
I think Ruben Dias coming back's been massive for us. I think Pep rested him for a few games. People were wondering why, but he's come in. He seems to galvanise the back four really well. We seem to be doing this huddle at the beginning of the games now, and he seems to be leading the charge. And you know, he's been fantastic for us, especially Rodri as well. I think at weekend, Rodri was all over the place, and he's not a better defensive midfielder in Europe at the minute for me.
I think everybody seems to forget about Rodri in the conversation of how good he really is, but he is very much the man who gels it all together in our team, and he's probably, for me, the first name on the team sheet. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's the water carrier. Didier Deschamps used to say he's the water carrier. He does, you know, he's not always pleasing on the eye, but the things that nobody wants to do, Rodri does it. And at the minute, he's on great form. It's really good to see. And in this competition, especially, we need him to be on it tonight.
And let's talk real quickly about our forward line. There's one man who we always talk about, and it's the man who's better than I've ever seen. I never thought someone would settle in as well as he has. And there are still people talking a little bit about him and doubting him. You can't doubt that Erling Haaland, can you?
No, it's unbelievable. I mean, they said, he won't get 12 goals, he won't get 10 goals, he's going to struggle against the defenders in the English league. I mean, he's blew every record there was to blow. And at weekend, getting back on the score sheet, seeing him celebrate with the travelling fans, seeing his reaction at the end with the manager, it's fantastic. And this competition's made for him. You know, he's already put his stamp on it, and he's a young lad. So these are the nights where Big Erling needs to turn up for us in the blue shirt and get us over the line.
He's the type of player who makes us smile like a lot of them. Let's talk real quickly about our opposition. When we got drawn against RB Leipzig, it was very much a thing of Manchester City have got an easy draw and etc. But that's just not true. And in the first leg, they were very, very impressive in parts.
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves. The first half, City dominated it, and then they made some tweaks and changes, and it made Pep think. And we've got to be cautious against them. They've got a lot of pace on the counter-attack. They've got some great players, Nkunku, Timo Werner. They've got Guardiola, or should we say FG, at the back. So, listen, they're no mugs, and the form in the German league shows that. It's going to be a tough game tonight, really tricky game, and City's got to be on it.
We have got to be on it. I wish I was as good as him at football, because he is very, very good. Whether I look like him or not, let's get your final score prediction. I always do this to you. Is this going to be finally the Mystic Steve moment, or are you going to get it wrong?
I'm due to get one right. I reckon it's going to be Manchester City 2, Leipzig 0, and we get our name in the hat.
That's all we're here for. We want our name in the hat. We're going to go get warmed up a little bit because it is cold. But back to the people in the studio like Kel. I know you're smiling and really, really warm. So enjoy the rest of the show and I'll catch up with you later.
You'd be right in thinking that, FG. Thank you very much, and thank you to Big Steve as well. Great to have him on the show. Right, midfield focused in just a second, but not before we've focused on another record breaker here at Manchester City. But we are heading over to Steph, who knows a little bit more, because it is about none other than Bunny Shaw. Let me just read this out. 15 goals in 15 games in the WSL, 4 assists. That's a goal or 1.04 goals per 90 minutes. 69 shots, 22% goal conversion. That's nearly a 50% accuracy every time. Steph, the numbers are frightening, and when you actually watch Bunny play, she's even better. Just tell us what you've made of her season and how important she's been for the team. So.
Yeah, she's been by far our best player this season. I think obviously she was new to us last year, and I think it took a while to kind of understand what the manager wanted from her. But I think this season, in terms of not just her ability on the pitch, our football ability, but our physicality has been frightening. I think I spoke about it a little bit before in terms of training against her every day. It's really hard, and I think for me she's been outstanding. I think she leads the line really well. She can dribble, she can shoot from distance, she gets the goals that we need, and I mean, she's always a threat, and I think them numbers kind of speak for herself. I think we just expect her to score now, which is a great feeling for us, and probably rely on her a little bit much, but she's really thriving in that role at the moment, and long may it continue to the end of the season.
Oh, long may it continue. And it's funny you say you rely on her, but that's because she does seem to be so dependable. I mean, we're seeing the 2 goals from the game from Brighton. Hasegawa, by the way, is one of my favourite players this season.
That's a shot, by the way.
Is it?
I said, you're shooting there, aren't you? And she's like, yeah. So we're not having that as a six.
Okay, all right, okay. But and then the second goal, the winning goal. I mean, the celebration, Steph, and obviously we know it's so tight at the top of the WSL at the moment. It was a big 3 points and a huge goal.
Oh, absolutely huge 3 points. I mean, I think you can probably tell by the pictures the pitch was terrible. But and I think it obviously stopped us the way that we want to play. But I think in leagues like this, you have to get 3 points somehow, and we certainly did that. But there's nothing better than a last-minute winner, and for Bunny to get it doesn't surprise us. But yeah, I mean, she's just got that ability to just have her back to goal and be able to turn, and she deserves all the plaudits she gets at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, we can see on this graphic here, most goals from a women's player in a single season took over from Nikita Paris. Shaun, as well, I know you know Bunny a little bit. I'm hearing there's been a few conversations, you've been given the odd pearl of wisdom, but you're a big fan, aren't you?
I am a big fan. I've just had a couple chats, but listen, I think a lot of the credit has to go down to the coach and to her, and our teammates, because she's been absolutely phenomenal. And I just, every time I'm watching games, I'm just thinking, go on, can you nick one? And she's scoring important goals. She's in the right place. That goal that she just scored, if she goes anywhere else, she doesn't score, but she turns in the area where there's space to get the shot off. And I loved it because it's probably not the cleanest shot, but they go in, and she's gone on and scored there. So I'm really pleased for her and for the girls. It's just that it's really exciting because how the women's team's doing, how the men's team's doing in terms of between now and the end of the season. It's just really exciting. I mean, I was talking before of her, just saying it's so exciting to look at between now and the end of the season. And everything is, well, a lot of it's still in our own hands.
Absolutely. We're going to come to the FA Cup in just a second. I wondered, though, we had Feed the Goat. Do we now have Feed the Bunny?
Feed the bunny.
Feed the bunny. Give the bunny the
You know what I
carrot.
mean?
You know what I mean? You dangle that carrot, she puts the ball in the back.
Hey.
You gonna get your seal of approval, Shaun?
Always. Anyone scoring that many goals, yes.
Do you know what? I wanted to pick up on something Steph said, Paul, because, particularly this season, there's been that complete kind of comparison. We've got Erling Haaland and we've got Bunny Shaw. But something Steph said there was, it still took Bunny that first season for them to get to know her because, we're still such a threat, but no way near those numbers. I guess it could then give confidence to go, look, Haaland obviously smashing it already, but actually there's probably more to come from him once he's gelled like Bunny's done.
Yeah, and still more to come from Bunny as well.
Yeah.
Steph's been at the club for a long time, and any new player coming into, whether it be in the men's team or the women's team, it's such a unique way of playing. Mm-hmm. And what they do and the transitions with and without the ball. So you can be a top player and still find it difficult. We spoke about Jack before, remember Bernardo Silva, Cancelo a few years ago. Erling, maybe still possibly, which is ridiculous to say with the goals that he's got. So as time goes on, I think it's in the Women's Super League and for the other teams in the Premier League, it's going to be quite scary because thinking that Bunny and Erling can only get better and score more and more goals. But just going back to Bunny, it must... Because you just dominate so many games, don't you? But to have that confidence, I mean, we had it with him, although it was way back and a lot lower down, that even if you weren't playing well or games were really tight, you just had to keep going because for these players, Bunny, Erling, the goal when they played, they just needed one chance.
Yeah.
And it gives you confidence all the way throughout the team to keep driving right to the very end. And that's what happened at the weekend.
That one chance made steady.
By the way, just going back a little bit, that was a clean... Just because you used to shank them in the bottom corner, don't start saying that about...
That was a clean...
We've had Coombs, Jon, we've had Gareth Taylor as well, and, we've been saying earlier on in the season, a lot of changes in the summer, new faces. One thing that's really been striking me, really throughout the season on more so, is, one, the togetherness of you guys as a team, and obviously, you said it takes place time to bed in, but have you been surprised just how quickly it seems all these new players who each bring so many different qualities to the team have gelled and actually have really kind of got into the system quite quick? Yeah,
it's been really surprising, to be honest. Obviously, I've been here a long time and played for within some great teams with some great players, but I think this year has got something special about it, and we had a tough start at the beginning of the season, not really getting the performances that we wanted, but that was probably because we were just learning and we were all gelling together, and we seem to have got our rhythm. And I think when we did have them defeats, it was never about blaming anybody else. It was always like, OK, we stick to the process, we have to work for the club, we work even harder on the training pitch, and our training intensity is scary. I come off that pitch and I'm thinking, oh my God, we've got another day tomorrow to train as well. I'm like, that's harder than the game, but I think that's the standard that we've set, and that's because everybody's wanting to push each other, and no matter if people are starting or on the bench, they're contributing somewhere, and the season's long, so everybody has to stand up at some point, and it's certainly been shown over the season that people have maybe started, then come and been on the bench, and come on and scored goals. I mean, Mary Fowler played a massive part in that goal against Bunny and probably not got as much game time as she wants, so everybody has to contribute. But we're in the changing rooms, the girls are amazing, and we just get on with things. There's no complaining. It's just like we want to win as many games as possible, and we've got big games coming up, like Shaun said. It's an exciting time for the club, and hopefully we can contribute to that. Speaking of those big games, let's take a quick look at the big game that's coming up in the FA Cup. Yeah. Aston Villa away from home. How are we feeling about it? Another tough game. Yeah, excited, to be honest. I think Villa was one of the games that we'd lost early on the season, which was probably a big surprise, and Villa have had a great season, but in them two games, especially the one at home, I don't think we give a good account of ourselves in terms of the performances that we've had lately. So the drive's there. It's the FA Cup, which is a special trophy to any football club, and we got the FA Cup final last year, didn't manage to retain the trophy, but I think for someone that's been in that competition for a long time, I think it's a special game, and hopefully we can go and perform the way that we have done over the last few games, because I think at this moment in time we are probably the most informed team in the league.
Couldn't agree more, and obviously as well, still well within a shout of winning the league as well. Well, we're going to be with you every step of the way, and that is going to be kicking off the game against Villa in the FA Cup Sunday, 19th of March, 6 p.m. UK time. And just before we move on, just a quick word on Gareth Taylor as well, Paul, because I think he got Manager of the Month as well in the league, if it wasn't last month or the month before, as well, for him to take all these new players and then to see the football they're playing now. He's doing a brilliant job, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm delighted for Gaz. Obviously been in the changing room with him many a time. But just going back to what Steph was saying, I remember speaking to him and Manny Allen at the start of the season, and he said as much as there was a lot of change around, and it just goes hand in hand with what Steph says, that a lot of changes, poor start of the season, they felt that this was one of the best groups that they've had, as in within that, and I don't want to embarrass you, but it spoke so highly of you coming back for your injury, not being in the team, then getting in the team, the influence that you had both on and off the pitch, and that's huge, because it's great that you're back. It must be great to be back in the team now as well.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously it's frustrating as a player, you want to be playing, but I think I've played a lot of times for this club, and I think the girls were playing well, and you've got to kind of understand where you stand in the squad, but I think that just gives you more motivation to kind of get back in the starting lineup, so hopefully just continue. But yeah, the girls have been amazing, and we have such good sessions, it really helps, because we drive that standard, and that's a standard that we go and take into a Sunday.
Beautiful stuff. Well, listen, Steph, we're wishing you all the luck as well
for
the season, and it is great to have you back. And as I said, Sunday 19th of March, 6 p.m. kick-off. Make sure we're there, and I think we'll hopefully have Matchday live with you as well. Let's look at our midfield then. But before we do that, I'm going to actually start with one of our guests on the screen, Forat. I'm going to come to you, my friend. We're doing a little focus on the midfield, and I want to start with Rodri, because I think we heard it in an interview before that maybe he's not always thought about, but he's the first name on the team sheet, amazing against Crystal Palace. What have you made of his season so far, and how important is he when we come up against these big teams, particularly one like Leipzig, who can either play through the middle or also hit us on a counter?
Hi everyone, I'm speaking to you from Berlin. Regarding this, Rodri, right? Because I hear some noise.
Yeah.
Okay. Rodri is an amazing midfielder. I think, as previous guys told before, and Stevie told in the interview with FG, he's one that is not spoken just about. And Rodri is an amazing player. Rodri is the one that could hold the midfield while giving the chance to Gundo and Bernardo and Hinton to go forward, and that would make us many chances. And Rodri is the main man for me tonight. He and him and Stones, and as well Ake, because it's not their natural positions, so they might have some problems. Hopefully not, but since we don't have as much space on the wings anymore, I think they still control the ball well and have good position, and I think we're going to do really well.
I totally agree. Thank you for that. Right, let's bring in Crystal as well, who I think is, am I right in thinking New York City, Crystal? So great to have you on from the city that never sleeps. When you saw the City starting 11, how were you feeling? Did it put your nerves at ease a little bit more? How can you see the game going tonight?
It did put my nerves at ease. I really like the lineup. I think having Gundo and Bernardo really important. I think there'll be a lot of help. And of course, having Rodri we need to have him. I know we mentioned earlier that he's not really mentioned in talking about the team, but I know that whenever he's not here, we immediately notice. So I feel a lot more confident that he's here. And I know Bernardo, with how quick he is, he's all over the place, moving everywhere. I think he'll be a lot of help today as well.
Kevin De Bruyne as well is another name that we know is so important. How happy were you when you saw his name on the team sheet? And what have you made of his season so far?
I'm very happy. He is my favorite player, so I'm really happy whenever he's on. I think it's important for us to have a good game. It's important for him to have a good game. I think he's really motivated as well. I think his season so far, he hasn't had all the goals or all the assists, but he's been important when he's been on the field for us. So I think he'll do good.
Absolutely. Well, actually, do you know what, Christelle? I'm going to bring in young Liam on our fan wall, who we think is over in Belgium. Liam, because I know that is, am I right in saying Kevin De Bruyne is your favourite player? How much do you love Kevin De Bruyne, Liam?
We love him a lot. We love him a lot. He's our most favourite player. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He sees things people never see. Even if you are a supporter, even you are on the pitch or not, he's an amazing player. We love him a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we love having you on. Liam, was it your first game at the Etihad last week? Did you come to the Newcastle game?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did come the last week in the Etihad Stadium to watch the game against Newcastle. He loved it. He loved it very much, right?
Yeah.
Well, you must have been a good luck charm, so you have to come to more games, Liam, OK?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your prediction, Liam? Give us a prediction for tonight. What's the score going to be?
2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
To Manchester City, yeah?
To Manchester City, yeah, right.
Wicked, thanks, Liam.
We believe in our team.
We love that. It was great to have you on, mate. Let's look at this midfield, Paul. It's opted for Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo. You mentioned maybe Rodri and Gundogan holding. Do you think that's a control thing as well for the game?
I think so, but then, at the same time, Gundo can also play further forward. I don't think there's anybody better in the team that making the third man runs in behind. We all know Erling's going to occupy the two centre-halves, and if Jack stays wide on one side and Bernardo stays wide on the other, there's going to be gaps, and Gundo's great at just ghosting in, the amount of goals that we've seen him score and creating there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how we set up. And as Shaun said before, and yourself, getting Kevin in wide areas as well, although Jack and Bernardo's going to be there. So I'm never trying to second-guess a formation or a team that Pep's done, because probably 10 times out of 10 we're wrong, but the great thing is we've got so many players that can interchange and play in so many different positions that it doesn't really make a difference to the fluidity of the team. Not
at all. One position that does kind of stay as a constant, we were chatting it there with our fan Shaun, is Rodri. And I mean, the performance against Palace is one of the best, and I think one of the fans said it before, probably the best holding midfielder in Europe. Would you agree?
Yeah. Easy. He puts out. It's easy. It's not even like a doubt.
Easy.
The guy just puts out fires like before they start. It's like we've lost possession. He just won it back. Yeah, he transitions the ball when it gets all tight, and you think we could lose the ball here because they've got all these extra bodies and it's tight. All of a sudden, he just positions himself in a position, gets it, goes out the other side. And then we're going on the wing with the player. His positioning and how he's able to just transition balls out of danger. But tonight, I think a little different to Gundo sitting alongside him. I think Stones may go inside. Yeah. And I think that is because of the counter-attack. And it's almost like the defence before the defence. And I think here, Rodri and Stones, I think, alongside him is sort of like to stifle that counter-attack before I think in possession we end up with a 3, and I think Stones will have an important part there. But Rodri he's phenomenal. It was games you're watching, right? And I'm thinking, you're talking about everybody. I'm thinking, hold on, this guy's just going about the game. And you're just thinking, he's done so many brilliant things. And I couldn't speak highly enough of him. I think he's a superb player. I think he's absolutely brilliant.
We know how kind of the style across all City teams is similar. And, we saw when Fernandinho, was slowly looking like that, he's kind of 36 now. He's been such a loyal servant who can fill his boots. Rodri has done that, but why, Steph, is that position so important to the way City play? And why do you need someone of Rodri's ability to be at their best every game and consistent for the way we play? Why is that?
I think to have that person that's central, that can get on the ball, can distribute to other players going forward. But I think the most important thing that I think he's been so good at this season is probably defensively, and I think his ability to read the game and to physically get there before other strikers, to stop transitions. I think that's probably a part of his game he's really improved on this season. I don't know whether it's because he's getting that run of games now. He's probably is one of the first team names on the team sheet. I mean, we speak about Calvin Phillips and him potentially coming in, but the level that Rodri's playing at is probably one of the best in Europe. And I think in games like this, you need someone that's going to get on the ball and going to dictate play. And I think with the help of Stones, I probably agree with you, Shaun. I think he will probably come in and help in possession, and it probably does give them a little bit more freedom when you do have your mate next year that can obviously maybe attract the opposition. But he has been phenomenal, and I think his performance against Palace on Saturday was probably one of his best this season.
I couldn't agree more. Just wanted to ask, on the point when we see the full-back drop inside, obviously it helps with possession. Then saying as well, does it help stopping the counter? Why is that? Because you just have that extra body in midfield. If there's someone else pushing on, you can get to them quick. Mainly because obviously when teams are attacking, they probably attack with more numbers, and if Rodri's by himself, it's probably harder for him to go to one player because you're always going to leave somebody else spare. And I think first and foremost, you got to protect the centre of the pitch, and by having another person in there, you can then force the opposition out wide and rearrange in that way. And I think with the back four that we've got, they are quite flexible and they're comfortable defending out wide. If Stones is in there, Kanji can go out there, and Ake's had a great season playing left back. So I think in terms of that, Guardiola's clever, but like Paul said, we don't want to kind of guess what's going to happen because it could be totally different. Yeah, who knows? One thing I think we go on. Sorry,
I'm just going back to Rodri. I think saying he's not appreciated or goes under the radar. He doesn't within the club or with his teammates. And Steph will probably tell you none more so than his centre halves that's in front of him, because he protects them so well. And sensational this season. I thought he was our Player of the Year last year.
I agree.
I know Kevin De Bruyne got Player of the Year and everything else. I thought consistently he was like a minimum 8 out of 10. Yeah. Shaun said that he puts out fires left, right and centre. But he's delighted sitting in there, breaking up play and giving 5-10 yard passes to everybody else, and letting your Jacks, your Kevins, your Haalands, letting everybody else, like Fernandinho did for years and years and years. Yeah. Him making a tackle was like him scoring a goal. Him breaking up a counter-attack was like him scoring a goal. That's the mentality they've got, and I just think he's been sensational. Yeah.
Well, I think he's up there. Sorry, go on, Shaun.
No, I was going to say, that's the one thing I think that I've seen in his game this season is the aggressive side. Because initially when Fernandinho was sort of on his way out and he was sort of taking that role, I was like, my thing was, well, he's not aggressive enough. He's not aggressive enough. But now I'm seeing times where he's just like, that's my ball. It was a few games back. It was a game where he got riled up, so much so that he got on the edge where you're thinking, is he going to get a card? And I actually liked it because it shows that it shows that we're a great team in possession. But you know what? When we're out of possession, we mean business as well. Yeah. Because we could also be a friendly team out of possession and go, I want the ball, but wanting it and really wanting it. And when you see that sometimes from a key player, I think is important and sort of just goes right through the team. Yeah, well, you can. And you can see he stepped into being one of those leaders on the pitch. I think he's one of the 5 captains. And I think when we did, a player's favourite 11, it's one thing I always love, not of current, past players. The first name on, I think it was, David James's, Nadam's, Jolien's. First name on all of their team sheets was Gareth Barry. Yeah. And I think those players, you guys know more than anyone, so key. And as we know as City fans, we absolutely love him. So listen, before we do a quick little focus on defensive side of the pitch and get predictions, let's quickly look at our commentary team today. Of course, it is the legend that is Alistair Mann, who's joined Andy Morrison. Let's quickly hear their thoughts, their pitch side.
Thanks, Kel. Well, we're here at pitch side. I tell you what, there's a great atmosphere in here. There is a lot of excitement about this game. Let's be honest about it, it's winner takes all tonight. Forget the away goals rule, it doesn't exist. One way or another, one of these teams are going to either win or lose. Andy, 1-1 from the first leg. What did we learn from that first leg?
Well, we knew already they were a very good team. And they just reinforced that, with the subtle changes at half-time where they changed the dynamics of the way they set up. And for me, it was a manager, has come in and said, listen, we're showing them too much respect. Let's go and stamp our authority. Let's go and show them how good we are. And they certainly did. They scored and equalised, and then they stepped back a little bit. But this is a very, very good outfit. They're structured, they're strong, they're organised, set plays, exceptional delivery from Forsberg. And, we're in for a tough game tonight.
Do you think it's a coincidence that there has been so much talk about the part the crowd can play tonight from Pep and Ilkay Gundogan?
No, absolutely. We've seen that. We've seen the energy. at times this season. And when it's lifted, this whole place has changed. And of course, but it's also got to play apart from the team. You know, the team, it's chicken and the egg, Ali. You know, if they're producing, then this place rises. When this place rises, the energy that the players pick up on, you know, we've seen it many, many times this season.
You maybe had a hunch that Mahrez might play tonight. What are your thoughts on who he has gone with?
Well, Mahrez has been on form in the Champions League. He's been the go-to. He's, you know, and I was really surprised when I saw the team, and also Phil Foden, who's in form. But there's a structure to it again. And listen, if the harmony's there and the rhythm's there tonight, then it'll be a very, very tough night for Leipzig. So we're talking about them, Ali. But if we're at our best and we're fluent and you know the rhythm's there, then we're very, very hard to stop. And these don't travel great. And you know, you spoke about that earlier on. And you know, like I say, if we're at it, we'll have too much for them.
Just a thought, because there's no away goals rule, there is that thought in the back of the mind that extra time, penalties, all those kind of things. Is that something that's in the minds of the away team? They're thinking we can sit here, we can, you know, put the onus on City to have a go at us?
100%. 100%. Stay in this and let's be there. Let's arrive in those last 15, 20 minutes and still be in the game. Even if that's one down, stay in the game. And that'll be the message. And if they keep it to one goal, the longer it goes as City step back in and they try and protect that, which is not totally against the nature of City, which they leave themselves open, then yeah, that'll be the plan. Stay in this as long as they possibly can.
Have you got a gut feeling about tonight?
Well, as the day's gone on, it's improved. You know, because I'm terribly nervous around these big games early on, and then you come tonight and you get a feel for it. You look at the team, you look at the bench, and then you start to grow a little bit of belief, like, you know, and that'll go as we go towards kick-off, and then we start and we dominate possession. It'll grow from there. But I'm mindful that your Champions League last 16, you know, every team have got so much to offer, and we've got to be at our best to beat these tonight.
I know what your score prediction is, but you can tell the people who've not heard it yet.
I'm going Haaland first goal, and I'm going a 3-1 win for City.
There you go. Andy, he's normally right, and he's normally cautious as well. That's the Andy prediction. We'll find out. Join us for the live commentary. Of course, download the app. Back to you, Kel.
Thank you, Alistair, and thank you, Andy Morrison, as well. Love that prediction. We'll be getting those predictions from our guests in just a second, but let's take a look at our defensive side of the pitch. Steph, I think it was Stephen McInerney tweeted out on the weekend against Palace, the return of four centre-halves in defence seems to be working quite well. That seems to be the go-to now. Why is that, and have you been impressed with it?
Yeah, I have been impressed with it. I think, I mean, John Stones is probably my favourite defender, and I think his ability on the ball, and I think that's why Pep trusts him so much, is he has so much composure, so much control, but defensively, in them wide areas, he can defend really well, and to have him back from injury is a big plus. But I think we spoke about early in the show, I think having that settled back forward, it does really probably calm your nerves as a team, because you're used to playing with each other, you have that rhythm, you have that understanding in defending, especially against these teams, you need your best 1v1 defenders, and maybe Kyle Walker is probably one of them, but I think in terms of the performance against Palace, to defend the likes against Zaha, we defended that really, really well, and hopefully we can kind of take that into tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And another player as well I thought was key, and has been since he's come back from injury, a bit like yourself really, Steph, Ruben Diaz.
Yeah, yes, I love him. And as you know, modern day centre halves now tend to want to play out from the back as a first and foremost. Yeah. You know, he wants to tackle. He defends first. He heads it. He gets it. He blocks a tackle and celebrates as if he's just won the World Cup. You know, it means so much to him to keep a clean sheet. And he's a leader. You know, he's one of the captains. Huge impression when he came in to the club straight away. I know he's had his injuries recently, but he's made such a difference since he came back in. And having the four centre halves there tonight at Palace, you know, I heard Pep say that because Palace, their height and set plays, you know, set plays are going to be really important tonight. They caused us a lot of problems in set plays a couple of weeks ago, so whether that had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, and
a little bit of height.
And one player we know is great at heading the ball, Nathan Ake. I know we've focused him quite a bit, and rightly so, but what a season he's been having. And again, another one of those names that you could say seem to be first on the team sheet, particularly on that left side of defence.
Yeah, I think he is one of those players. He's been very consistent. I think he's the one that's taken a little bit of time last season, needing a bit of time to get himself and understanding. But he's now sort of understands and is so consistent. When you talk about set pieces, you know, in both boxes. He's somebody that gets his head on the ball. So interesting though. I looked at some of the highlights, and I looked at Rodri. They couldn't cope with Rodri with our set pieces sort of going around the back. And it was funny because I just think if we had another probably 2 corners on that, they didn't have anybody, I think, that could cope with Rodri because he wins a lot of balls when he's in the box. So it'll be interesting in terms of, from their point of view, defending us on corners. But yeah, the fact we conceded a set piece from them, I think that'll be something that, you know, Pep would have looked at and had players making sure they know who they're picking up, or if they're zonal, making sure what area they're covering and attacking the ball.
I think as well, so we're saying it's a back four. Very, very rarely within the game is it going to be a back four.
Yeah.
You know, it will be a back three, and all 4 of the 3, if you like, that are so comfortable in that position as well.
I'm just looking at some stats here. That Nathan Ake's pass accuracy in the Champions League is 97.5%. And I think he's played most of the games. Like, as you say, and that's a big part of probably what Pep wants is the ball retention and ball control, which then I guess it helps with the pace of the game, but then it means that we can play our game and maybe lure them into a little bit of a trap, possibly, do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I think, obviously, playing at the back myself, a lot of responsibility is on you to start attacks and give it to the better players that are midfielders and forwards. And I think for Ake, he has had an unbelievable season to be able to fit into that left-back slot and get up and down that line where he's probably used to being left centre-half. I think it's a credit to him, and you can tell that his personality he's just so grounded and humble, and I think to have that stat is fantastic because you're playing against some really good right wingers who are going to press you. But I think that's probably because he's quite smart in terms of he knows when the press is coming, he knows where his options is, and when you have that consistency of playing and that trust from your manager, your confidence does automatically increase, and you can tell by the way he's playing.
This will sound like an obvious question, but I do love them here on this show. As a centre-half, they do make it look so easy to just step in at playing left-back, but I'm guessing it's not as easy as John Stones or Ake make it look, Steph.
They make it look very easy. I don't think I'd be very comfortable playing right or left-back. But yeah, I think that is just because they're very good footballers first and foremost, but it probably will take a few games to kind of probably get your bearings, and especially defensively. I think it's not so much when you're attacking, you're probably making similar passes in a sense, but I think with this team, I think you'd love to be able to play on this team because the options are probably endless. You could play whoever you wanted to play because the movement is so scary.
It is amazing to see. And also, we had a clean sheet against Palace, Paul, and we know, I mean, we've got a little break after the Burnley game at the weekend, but I guess as well, clean sheets, we know it was eluding Ederson, that 100th clean sheet. Probably they'll be saying it's important to try and build up now a bit of a run of clean sheets, just so teams feel like, well, they scored loads and we can't score against them.
Absolutely, and I think the 4 lads that are playing tonight, and it's nothing against, look, we've got Laporte on the bench, we've got Kyle Walker on the bench, Rico Lewis on the bench. The 4 that are starting tonight, and Steph will tell you better than this, will be delighted off the back of a clean sheet that it's not changed again, you know, because they've built the confidence of doing it, and they know at any second it can change. But as you said, you know, the Burnley at the weekend and the international break, so they want to get some consistency within that as much as they can.
Well, listen, I've absolutely loved today's show. It's flown by. You can see the boys are there, ready and raring to go in the tunnel. But before we hand over to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison with commentary, let's get some predictions before in the studio. We're going to go to the fans on the wall. Dax, we'll begin with you. What's your prediction?
Oh, don't begin with me. Right, so I don't do predictions.
Come on,
I'm
Dax.
too superstitious for it. Do you really want that? I'm a City fan, and I'm very superstitious. Are you going to push me for...
Paul Dickov asked for it. It's whether you want to say no to Paul Dickov and Shaun and Steph.
Right, Paul, no problem. This is on your neck, OK? If we go out of the Champions League tonight, you're holding this, not me.
I can handle that, Dax, don't worry.
All right, I think it's going to be 3-1 City then.
Love that. OK, same as Andy Morrison. Sarah, what's your prediction?
I never like to predict conceding a goal for us, so I'm going to go 3-0 for City. Because I'm used to hearing my dad talking about the good old days, and if we have less than a 3-goal cushion, I'm not going to be comfortable. OK, love that. And Paul, what about you? Yes, Paul, I think you're on mute. Are you on mute? Tell us with your hands.
Here we go. Now you can hear me.
There we go.
I have a feeling we're going to have to go to extra time.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, Paul's thinking extra time.
Old school fan, innit?
Old school. Shaun, quick prediction?
I was thinking 2-1 or 3-2. I'm going to go 3-2. I think it's going to be a tough one for us tonight. 3-2.
We like the theme of 3 goals, Steph.
2-0.
2-0, solid,
Yeah.
Paul?
I'm going to go with Steph. 2-0. And just on Dax blaming me, Andy Morrison said 3-1 as well, so Andy's a lot bigger than me. So
well, listen, massive thank you to all our guests. Love the show. Thank you to you for watching. We're going to be back at half-time, then we will be back at full-time. But right now, there's a light show at the Etihad, and Andy Morrison, and of course, legend Alistair Mann has got your commentary. See you at half-time. Come on, City.
There is nothing quite like a Euro